This podcast is part of Mishmash Media. Hey, buddy.
Hey, how's it going?
Very good. Welcome to another episode of Curbcast. My name is Ivan.
And I'm Stephen.
And every week we talk about an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm in chronological order, and we review it scene by scene. And we're in the back end now of Season 6. We're talking about the very funny Episode 6, The Rat Dog. I love this one, Steve. What a great episode.
Yeah, I thought this was one of the best of Season 6, probably top 2 or 3. And one scene in particular, which we'll talk about when it happens. If you're a viewer of the show, you probably know which one we're talking about, involving the title of the episode, The Rat Dog. But yeah, still the rest of the episode, great.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. And yeah, I had to watch that scene a few times. I was just like, oh my God, this is just... it's so morbid, but it's just so funny at the same time. It mirrored like an earlier scene with Larry.
Yeah, kind of like last week's episode. You know, you watch enough of a show, eventually you get used to their formula. You can kind of, not all the time, but you know, with a reasonable amount of success, kind of predict how the show will go, how the episode will go generally based on the seeds that they plant early in the episode, and you can kind of anticipate what things will happen. Last week, that was completely blown out of the water for me when you and I both expected Paul McCartney to show up, but it was John McEnroe, and there was no mention of John McEnroe prior to the scene, or, you know, prior to, like, in the episode, there was no mention of him, and it was like a happy surprise. In this episode, I'm surprised that by myself that I didn't, you know, given the fact that you meet the exterminator and he mentions rats and rodents specifically, and then Larry says, you know, your dog looks like a rat dog. You know, I thought that I would put it together, but it was still, it escalates in the scene that we're talking about. And it just, out of the blue, I was like, I did not expect that to happen.
I know. I was just on the floor. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I watched it like 3 times. I was like, what the hell?
It's fucking amazing.
Amazing. We'll talk about that right at the end of the episode. But yeah, we're, like I said, we're in the second half of Season 6. And boy, I said last week, and I'll say it again, Steve, Season 6. High caliber season. Best one so far.
Yeah, definitely most consistent so far. And this episode's no different.
That's right. You can reach out to us if you want to talk about this episode or Curbcast, or Curb Your Enthusiasm, in general. Curbcastpod@gmail.com. And you can find us on the major socials if you want to follow us and chat on there at Curbcastpod. And Stephen, there's a couple of other ways you can help us out.
That's right. We've got a Patreon, patreon.com/Mishmash Media, which is the name of our podcast network in which we put Curbcast out under. And for $1 US a month, you can help us out, keep the lights on, and get early access to Curbcast, usually a week or so early. And we will be bringing some bonus content to you a bit later on in the year. And if you don't want to support us financially, you can help us out by spreading the word, telling a friend or a family member or someone who likes Curb, someone in your life who you might think like us, let them know about the podcast, or rate us or review us on your podcast app of choice. That really helps with visibility and where we appear in the old search algorithms.
Indeed. And any of that kind of helps. That would be amazing.
Oh,
anyway, let's do it, my friend. The Rat Dog Season 6, Episode 6, aired in the US on HBO for the first time on October 14th, 2007. A faulty toaster makes life difficult for Loretta and Leon. Larry repeatedly offends a hearing-impaired woman about the small dog she keeps with her. Larry and Leon get their phones mixed up. And Larry traumatizes the entire audience at a middle school production of Grease when he invites Jeff's exterminator, Mike, to watch the show. And the person who plays Mike, he is, you may recognize him, he looks a bit familiar. He is Kevin Farley. He's the late Chris Farley's brother.
Yeah. I didn't recognize him at first, but once I discovered that, it occurred to me who he was, yeah.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed Mike in this episode. He's subdued in parts, but then he's very outlandish, especially when there's rats involved. He's, had lots of elements to him. I really enjoyed his character.
Yeah, no, a character of extremes. You know, he's very kind of meek. You know, at the start, he feels bad for inviting himself or taking up the ticket offer. And, he almost, he's very meek, and then he gets real extreme. Yeah, bit of a roller coaster, but yeah, I liked him too.
Yeah, it was awesome. Anyway, let's get into it. Scene 1 of The Rat Dog. Larry is looking at his toaster, and he can't believe that it takes so long to cook his toast. Leon is eating breakfast as he's preparing for a job interview. Larry asks if he can give Leon a tip. And Leon says, sure, no problem. He says that the interviewer will be on top of him at first, and that the hierarchy will turn around and he will go on the top once Leon begins asking questions. And Leon goes on one of his very famous rants. But Larry, that's pretty good advice. Like, because technically when you go for a job interview, you're also interviewing the interviewer as well.
Yeah, it's a pretty common thing. You've got to change the power dynamic so you're in a bit more control, and it helps you be a bit more confident, and I guess it shows initiative as well. So yeah, pretty solid. Although generic, still a sound piece of advice from Larry for sure.
And then Leon rather goes on one of his trademark rants. Hilarious.
Yep.
Larry answers the phone, his cell phone, and it's a telemarketer. He says he's not interested in their call. Leon and Loretta are laughing in the background, and Leon hangs up as he's shitting all over telemarketers. Leon comments that he has the same phone as Larry, a Motorola Razr, and when those phones came out, they were really, really cool. They were like the real stylish flip phones. I like them.
Yeah, they were the cool phone to have. If you had one of those, it was very, it was a thing. It was like when the iPhones came out. It's, if you had an iPhone, it was almost like a status symbol, but it was definitely something to brag about.
Yeah, and Larry, Lee, and Leon have the same black phone, which is hilarious.
Yeah, and it really dates the episode as well. Like I always love those little cultural touchstones that come up in shows that really place it in, in modern history. I really enjoy that, and this was one of those moments for me.
And I think next week's episode, when Larry and Cheryl end up separating, they're called the TiVo guy, I'm pretty sure. So,
yeah,
another dated reference.
Yeah, very at the time cutting edge, but now sort of archaic technology for sure. I don't remember TiVo being much of a thing here. I think it existed, but it never really caught on.
Oh no, it was a bit popular. Like it wasn't as popular as in America, but I remember TiVo. There were lots of signs for it at like Harvey Norman and those kind of shops. Yeah, TiVo was a thing. They had like their own like stands and stuff. Yeah, they were pretty short lived.
There you go.
But no, I don't remember anyone personally who had a TiVo, even though.
Yeah, I think that's how I'm judging it. Like no one only had it, but they probably went pretty hard for, market share or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And look at them now. Cheryl calls out to Larry from the bedroom. Cheryl is lying in bed sick in the bedroom as Larry apologizes for not getting her something to drink. Larry says he always has trouble telling if people have fevers when he uses his hand to check. As he checks Cheryl, and Cheryl has a fever, and Larry's, it's true though. Like I have checked, like say my wife or anyone else who I've looked after sick. They might think that they're feeling really hot and they have a fever, and you just put your hand on their head, and apparently some people might feel like they have a fever but they don't. But there is apparently a way to tell if someone has one. Is that true?
I think that's fairly true. Sometimes it's very obvious that people are running hot, but skin's warm anyway, and if you're used to touching their face, if it's like your wife or an intimate partner or whatever, it's like, well, because I mean the human body's temperature is normally 37 degrees, give or take 0.1 of a degree. And during a fever, it might go up to 38 or 39, which isn't like if I put my hand on 38 degrees and then 37 degrees, it's not a very big difference. So it's not like it doubles or triples and it's very obvious, or there's no radiating heat. So yeah, it can be a bit difficult sometimes, but I think you have to look for other symptoms, like sweats and, if they're a bit saying crazy things, fever dreams and stuff like that. Yeah, just from temperature, sometimes it can be a bit tricky to tell.
Yeah. But I don't know. I seem to kind of agree with Larry. Sometimes I might think like I might feel a bit hot and flush, and then I put my hand on my head and it's no fever, and then I get the thermometer and it's fine. And I don't actually have one. It's weird.
Yeah, it's kind of, like you convince yourself that you must have one, so you exaggerate what you're feeling, but it turns out you don't,
But the thermometer will confirm it.
Exactly.
Larry is excited because he says to Cheryl that if Leon or Loretta, either one or both, get a job, then they can get out of the house. So at this point, it's implied that Larry is sick of the family being there. He just kind of wants them gone. He wants his peace and quiet back.
Yeah, he was reluctant from the start. He was trying to, in episode 1, Meet the Blacks of season 6, he was trying to find a reason not to have them in, and he's just, other than Leon, he's just very reluctantly tolerated them until this point. Now he's seeing signs that maybe they'll leave, and he's very he's not very subtle. He's not very subtle in his get the fuck out hints that he's trying to drop a bit later on the episode. Is he's one step away from just saying, okay, you guys need to go now.
Yeah, he's a bit scared to confront Leon because of his persona, and Loretta because she's pretty tough in her own right as well.
Yeah. But he's making his dissatisfaction with their stay quite apparent.
Yes. Cheryl says she's too sick to go to Kaisha's play tomorrow, and Larry says he doesn't want to take anyone else. She'd rather just take Cheryl, as she accosts Larry for feeling her up while she's sick. So Larry, is saying, oh, I wouldn't want to bring anyone to the play except you. And he begins being very touchy-feely and ends up grabbing Cheryl's breast. And Cheryl's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, he explains a bit. He explains why a bit later on as to why he, in the moment, thought it was a good idea.
He likes sick sex.
Yeah, I think he likes the helplessness of Cheryl. I think is what he says.
Yes.
But yeah, definitely not the time and place. It's like it's okay to try and crack onto your wife, but time and place, Larry.
Yeah, just not right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's great. It's like he slowly starts rubbing her chest and then just grabs her boob right at the end.
Yeah, it's I don't know, it just had this weird teenage awkwardness to it as well, where he's just like, I'm going to try this and see if it works.
Yeah. See what happens.
Yeah, it just didn't feel very sexy or natural. It was just very it just had this kind of clunkiness to it, which was very fun.
I know. Yeah, it was very, very awkward, I should say. Larry is at Sammy's school. He runs into Susie and a couple named Hal and Jean as Hal leaves as he's got to go somewhere. Larry tries to impress Jean, who is deaf, with his knowledge of sign language. He complains about his toaster as Susie interprets Jean of signing that there is a store that has sales on toasters. Which makes Larry very happy as Sammy arrives. As Sammy turns up, Larry spots a spider on the ground and crushes it with his foot, and Susie berates him for killing a living creature and traumatizing the children. It's another one of Susie's exaggerated theories about Larry.
Yeah, she's a bit precious. I mean, the spider posed no threat, but I don't think in real life anyone would be so upset as she is with Larry in this scene.
Yes, I know. It's and you're traumatizing these children. You're putting all these things in their head.
Yeah, I don't think
killing a small spider.
Yeah, I can't imagine a 7-year-old in 20 years, sitting in a psychologist's chair talking about how watching a weird old man stomp on a spider at school is something that still affects them. I don't think there's going to be any lingering trauma for these kids. And if there is, I don't think the spider was the reason.
That's not the reason, no. There's definitely there'll be something more underlying than that.
Yeah, I think the spider's just a gateway into something a bit more serious.
Yes, definitely in need of some therapy there, yeah. Larry spots Jean's dog, a small, I guess a chihuahua looking thing in her bag. It's a chihuahua, right?
I think so, yeah. There are my friend and her husband have a chihuahua, but it's really small. It's smaller than a normal chihuahua. I think it's got a specific name. It's like a breed.
Is it a teacup chihuahua?
Maybe something like that. I can't really remember, but it's chihuahuas are little minute dogs anyway. But this is even smaller. It's like a shrunken chihuahua, but it's got a certain name. It's it's either got a totally different name, but it's still a chihuahua, or a something chihuahua, like a teacup chihuahua or whatever chihuahua. Yeah. I think this dog, it looks smaller than a normal chihuahua, but it doesn't look like a puppy. So I think it's one of those smaller chihuahuas, whatever they're called.
Now, I thought that was teacup. Correct me if I'm wrong. If anyone knows, just send us an email or let us know on the socials.
I'm aware of teacup pigs, but there probably is a teacup chihuahua as well. I don't know.
Okay. It's just the name. I don't know. The name sounds familiar. I'm probably completely off. Maybe it's another species I'm thinking of, but yeah.
Who knows?
He says that he thought that Jean's dog was half rat, as she gets very offended and walks off. And I don't blame her because, if someone calls a dog a rat, that's very offensive. People are very protective of their animals.
Yeah.
So totally understandable.
And
so she's upset and walks off.
Yeah, totally. And while you've been talking, I just Googled, there is such thing as a teacup chihuahua, and this dog is definitely one of those.
That's what it's called, teacup chihuahua. Okay, very good. Well, you don't have to email us now. It's all good. We got the answer.
Still email us if you want to talk about teacup chihuahuas or anything, but not about that specifically. You don't. No. You don't feel obliged now. I'm looking at a Google image search, and there's a lot of little rat dogs for sure.
They are actual rat dogs.
I mean, they're very cute, but they, I can understand why you would mistake them for a rat.
Oh, especially Mike the Exterminator.
Yeah.
All right. Hi, Sammy. Hi. Oh, spider! Spider!
Oh, my God!
Spider!
Come on. Harry, what is the matter with you killing a live creature? These kids don't need to see that kind of violence.
It's a little spider, big deal.
Larry runs into Hal in the bathroom, and he mentions the rat dog comment he said to his wife. Hal seems a bit taken aback and surprised by Larry's comment. Larry asks if Hal pats the dog, and Hal says, yes, I pat the dog, even though it's Jean's. So it seems like Hal... it's more like Jean's dog, not Hal's dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just kind of like puts up with it a little bit.
Yeah, maybe he, maybe she had the dog before they met, and he's a stepdad to the dog,
Right? Yes.
something like that. But
It'd be one of those situations. He just kind of tolerates it.
yeah, he does. He has nothing against the dog, but he doesn't love it as much as Jean.
No. Larry asks Hal to apologize on his behalf to Jean, but Hal says that Larry should do it. He invites Larry to their house so he can apologize in person, as Larry says that those people, aka deaf people, can't hear on the phone. And he laments that deaf people have the privilege of being able to have pop-in visits all the time, as they can't use the phone. Oh, Larry. Larry is drying his hands after washing them. Hal looks to Larry, and Larry is drying his finger, but he's like rubbing his like thumb and index finger on his other index finger, and he's kind of rubbing it up and down. Hal mistakes it for a rude word in sign language. He yells at Larry, and he walks off in anger. We know that Larry was like drying his hands, which is all well and good, and he seems to dry one individual finger at a time. I'm with Larry on this one, because if you look at the scene, Larry wasn't actually looking at Hal when he did the motion. He was looking like in front of him. So yeah. I think Hal it's certainly a misunderstanding. It's definitely Hal's misinterpretation here.
Yeah, and also the fact that he was in a toilet, he had his hands under a hand dryer. It's pretty, like, if I were Hal and I thought that Larry was flipping me off, or, giving me, not flipping me off, but, insulting me in sign language, I'd maybe just ask. I'd be like, are you telling me what I think you're telling me? I wouldn't just assume, given all the clues, that he's not.
Yeah. I mean, if Larry was looking at in Hal's direction and did it, then he would probably interpret it as being directed towards him. But I think Hal just misread it.
Totally. And yeah, like I said, if you look over at someone and they're rubbing their hands under a hand dryer in a toilet, it's, conclusion is there to draw.
It's still very funny. Like, Hal's just livid, and he just like yells at Larry. He goes, "Fuck you." He just walks off.
Yeah. And I mean, he's obviously a bit pissed off at Larry anyway. He's like, what's the word? Like not preconceived, but there's a primed, he's primed to be pissed off at Larry anyway, because of what Larry said to Jean. But yeah, it's definitely a big misread.
Yeah, it certainly is. And there's more, and this is just the start of their the down spiral of their acquaintanceship.
That was a very haphazard sentence, but
yes.
Yeah, it's the start of the downward spiral of their relationship.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better.
Well, you could have.
Yeah, actually, it's true. Yes, I could have done a lot better.
Yeah. That was my point. But anyway, I'll stop unnecessarily berating you over something that's not important. I'll stop being Larry.
Otherwise, our friendship will have a downward spiral.
Totally. Our acquaintanceship will have a down spiral.
You and me.
I'll stop now. I'm sorry. If you want to sign to me, we're recording remotely, but if you want to turn your camera on and sign to me, to tell me where to go, I understand. You have the right.
Perfectly. Yep. Yeah, I'll enable it after this episode.
All right. Yep.
So you better wait there. Larry is talking to Jeff at Jeff's house. He says he was turned on by Cheryl being sick, and he says that he just likes sick sex. They're his words.
Yeah, he explains that he likes the helplessness of the situation. There's like a power dynamic there, I guess. He can, in Fantasyland, in his Fantasyland, he can take advantage of her, so to speak, because she's at his mercy.
Yes. Larry says he's thinking of getting his father a happy ending massage to make him feel better, as Larry's dad is feeling a bit down recently. Jeff says he knows many people like that, of course, who may help. And the best girl, her name is Lisa. She gives the best happy ending massages. Susie walks in as the conversation ends, and he wonders what girl Jeff was talking about. He pretends that he was trying to remember the name of the cleaning girl who comes every 2 weeks. So Jeff, to kind of cover his conversation, he pretends he was asking about another woman.
Yeah, and considering he seems very good or well practiced at having to adjust his topic of conversation on the fly when Susie walks in, like, because
he's trained for it. He's used to it.
Yeah, he does it very smoothly and without missing a step. And she buys it. And I mean, this is a woman who tells him where he can and can't jerk off, and that jerking off in someone else's house is tantamount to being unfaithful. So she's very protective of, I guess, of his junk, of his jizz, and his sexual energy in general. So the fact that he changes it on a fly and she buys it, I feel like he's done that a few times.
Yeah, he's a veteran in deflecting the conversation.
Totally.
Larry asks Susie about his mistaken sign towards Hal as he reenacts his hand motion, because he's like, Hal got offended by this, but I don't know what this means. Susie says that it means cocksucker as she walks off. So Larry inadvertently called Hal a cocksucker.
I want to know if that's real. I don't know. I feel like it is. Like, Larry would be someone to use the real cocksucker sign. I don't feel like he would make it up. But
no, it's probably real because obviously we use in Australia we have Auslan. That's our sign language. I'm sure there's an American sign language. I'm pretty sure there is.
Yeah.
It's probably just Google it, yeah. Or if there's like a sign language, translation website or something, yeah, just write that word in and see what comes up. It looks like, because even Jeff makes a point of it. He's like, oh yeah, cocksucking, because it kind of looks like, a cock going in like an orifice.
Yeah.
that motion.
Like,
so it kind of makes sense.
Looks like a mouth sucking a cock.
Yeah, exactly. So it makes sense. I would have thought maybe that meant like wanker or something, but I don't think wanker is like a term they use in America. So yeah, that's what I thought. But yeah, cocksucker, that was a bit of a surprise. So it's probably true. Yeah.
Oh, well, apparently it isn't. So I just Googled how to say cocksucker in ASL, which is American Sign Language. And apparently it's just like the term, when you have like, you do the jerking off motion, but up near your mouth as if you are sucking a cock. That's apparently what it is.
Oh, so you put that near your mouth when you
yeah, well, it's just, like the term anyone would do, whether they're hearing impaired or not, of like sucking a cock, where they, like you are actually sucking a cock. Apparently that's it. So
okay, cool. Well, that's an insult. In ASL. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Good to remember if I'm in the US again and a deaf person rolls me up, I'll do that motion.
Yeah. You'll have told them what you think of them.
Mm-hmm, exactly, and then they'll say "fuck you" and just walk out of the bathroom. Simple. Larry says that because Cheryl is sick, he has no one to go to Greece with him. That's the performance at the school. Mike, Jeff's exterminator, is nearby, and he asks if he can go with Larry. He's hesitant about it, and Mike begins apologizing for even asking, and he says sorry to Mr. Green, Jeff, for considering this. And he says that he's a huge fan of Grease. He loves the show and he'd love to see the musical. After a little while, Larry says he can come and Mike offers to pick Larry up before the show. So there's a bit of awkwardness there. I mean, Mike, because Mike, he seems to be a fan of musicals and especially Grease. And he kind of went in without thinking about it, but eventually Larry's like, yeah, okay, you can come. That's fine.
Yeah, he I think he feels a bit sorry for him.
Yeah, because again, just like last week, you were saying that Larry is almost like an indirect crusader for the working class. I guess this is another one of his kind of crusades as well. Bringing a working like class blue collar guy to a theater.
Yeah, I think if it was anyone else, like if it was, I don't know, Ted, he would happily tell him to fuck off or happily tell him no and not feel embarrassed by it or not feel guilty for saying no. But I guess for some reason he feels sorry for people who aren't in his financial position. Maybe He feels like he has to stick up for them or do something that he ordinarily wouldn't.
Yeah. So again, it kind of feeds into that kind of idea as well. And, I think Larry kind of feels bad for him.
Even though
because of the fact that Mike calls Jeff Mr. Green.
Yeah.
God, don't call him Mr. Green. He's not a Mister. God, he's the opposite.
It almost makes me feel like, Larry is aware of his celebrity and his wealth and his, I guess, power as, as the creator of Seinfeld and his, his stance and his level of respect in, at least creatively in TV. But it's almost like he doesn't want to let go of maybe his more humble beginnings and he still wants to relate to that part of his life. It was revealed last week that he used to be a limo driver and before he was a famous comedian or writer, he was probably just doing a whole bunch of shitty jobs just to pay the rent while he was trying to make it, and it's like he's still, he's caught between two worlds. Like he's like, well, who I am is actually a bit more down to earth, or who I feel like I am is more down to earth, but who I actually am because of my, success and money and who I socialize with is is someone else, and he's like trying to exist in both lanes or something. Yeah. I don't know. That might have been a bit too deep of an analysis of Larry's mindset, but that's just kind of what it feels like sometimes when he tries to relate to the more, regular person. But and he never feels totally comfortable in his celebrity world. Like it's always a bit foreign to him.
He doesn't forget his roots sometimes.
No. He's but even his more humble gestures or more down to earth gestures can still come across as like patronizing or just a bit insulting. Like you don't have to feel sorry for me. Like I'm fine being a limo driver or an exterminator or whatever. Like these people aren't looking for sympathy. They just, I don't know. It's a nice motivation, but again, his delivery sometimes is just a bit off.
Yeah, a bit off, but it wasn't this time him. It was Mike who was being a bit awkward, but then Larry kind of
that's true.
Sorry for him. Yeah, and goes with it. Back at home, Leon says he'll find out if he got the job, as he says he had a great interview, which makes Larry happy, which means that Leon and Loretta and the family could probably move out eventually. Leon says, in reference to a previous monologue he did, one of his more famous ones. He said he went right up on that ass, in that ass.
Yeah, good. Great callback.
Yeah. Loretta is dressed up for her interview, and Larry says that she looks really good and suggests that even like you were saying before, that Larry kind of he doesn't want to tell Leon or Loretta directly that they should move out, but Larry suggests that quite a bit passively that if one of them gets a job, then they can possibly move out. And they both kind of look at him like, "What? What are you talking about?" As he answers the door, Larry's dad arrives, and he looks very happy as he said he's had a great massage. He adds that he is in love with the masseuse, and Larry says, "Oh, the masseuse loves everyone, because Larry's dad's like, oh, I love the masseuse, and I think the masseuse loves me back." And Larry's like, "Oh, the masseuse loves everyone, all their kids, not just you." So it sounds like Larry's dad had a bit of a happy ending, so to speak. So he thinks he's in love. Good for him.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty common. Like a friend of mine is a sex worker, and they. They've described that to me before, where their clients can become a bit obsessive or misunderstand that no, this is just a fantasy. Like, you're paying for me to be almost a character, and once the time is up, then that's it. We're kind of strangers again.
Yes.
People misunderstand, especially lonely people or people maybe who have come out of a bad relationship and feel a bit vulnerable or lacking in emotional intimacy and are just searching for a connection. Their brain is either in denial, like no, this is real, or they just don't want to believe that it's a business transaction. So it's not uncommon for people from many who are in all sorts of different situations to misunderstand what is just a business professional relationship as like real intimacy or real romance. It's like no, this is you're just a client to me. Like, that's unfortunately all you are. And people take that a bit too far.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Larry's dad, he is one of those lonely people. And
Larry's mum's been dead for a little while, and he's like Larry said, he's feeling depressed anyway. He's probably frustrated about his stroke. He's getting older. He's getting more forgetful. He's just not having a good time. So it makes sense that he would misunderstand a pleasant experience as genuine intimacy.
And adding to that as well, like when we see, like, it's not Larry's dad that turns up, not just him, but it's his carer.
Yeah,
to have like driven him. So maybe she's coming to get him later. So he can't even go visit his son on his own. He needs help. So he's down in the dumps.
Yeah, and it seems to be a pretty quick decline for Larry's dad. Like, when we first meet him, he's got all his faculties. He's physically mobile. He's still an old man, but he's in really good nick. And it's only taken a season or two for him to have a stroke and need a carer. And so that's a pretty big head fuck. So it makes sense why he's pretty depressed.
Yeah, he's got to adjust to this new life.
Totally, yeah.
Cheryl calls to Larry from upstairs, and I love when Cheryl calls. She's like, "Larry." She's just like, struggling. She's like meek. She's like, "Larry." It's like she's dying.
Yeah, she's probably hamming it up a bit because she's a bit frustrated over him not paying enough attention to her. So she's probably turning it up a bit to make him a bit more, do what she wants him to do.
Yeah, just to get attention. Yeah.
Yeah.
Larry walks into the bedroom, and Cheryl asks for some wheat toast. He says that Loretta has to go to an interview. He has to drop her off, and he says that he'll go get the toast for her anyway. Larry walks downstairs and tells Leon he needs the toaster, as Leon's frustrated with the toaster taking forever to cook up his toast. Larry puts in a couple of bits of wheat toast, and he waits for it to heat up. The scene cuts to Larry back upstairs with the toast, as Cheryl says that it doesn't look like toast and it's just bread. And Larry complains that it took a long time for the toast to toast up. And he has to drop Loretta off to the interview. Loretta calls out to Larry from downstairs. He runs down the stairs as he, his dad, and her, Loretta, are about to leave. Larry grabs Leon's phone, thinking that it's his, and the camera pans to Larry's phone, which is on the table. So there was a mention of Larry and Leon having the same phone. So Larry is in such a rush, he doesn't check which phone it is, and he grabs Leon's by accident.
Yeah, which causes a lot of issues later on.
Yes, which we'll talk about, right now.
And just a little side note, a little update for me verifying what the sign language sign is for cocksucker. It's actually both. So it is what is shown in this episode. It is the finger into the the pursed kind of fingers to, emulate an orifice, as you see in this episode. And it is just the standard cock up to your mouth, invisible cock in your mouth, sucking motion that most people do anyway. So it's apparently both are acceptable.
Okay, cool. So there's two ways to do it. So it's legitimate ASL.
Yeah, so that's one of two apparently acceptable ways to portray telling someone they're a cocksucker in American Sign Language. So there you
And hopefully you had Safe Search on when you searched for that.
What's that?
I said hopefully you had Safe Search on when you searched for that. On
Oh, no. Google already know everything about me, so this is fine.
I'm just saying you didn't get any explicit images by mistake.
Oh, no. And, even if I did, that's normal, so...
Yeah, exactly. The three of them are driving to the interview as Loretta is getting nervous as she is running late for her interview. They arrive at the front of the building as Loretta says that she'll run in for the interview, and Larry says that he'll wait for her. The scene cuts to Loretta, who arrives at reception 30 minutes late. She asks the receptionist to see the boss. She says that the boss is now out, and she says that now the position has been filled. So, I don't know, I'm guessing maybe the person that was being interviewed before Loretta maybe wowed the boss, and maybe the boss said straight away, you're hired.
Yeah, or maybe they just needed to fill the position that day. Could be one or the other. But yeah, unfortunately, Loretta misses out as to be expected.
Yes, all because of a toaster.
Yep.
The scene cuts to a dejected Loretta back in the car with Larry and his dad as they're driving back home. She gets mad for Larry waiting on the toaster. Larry gets frustrated and flustered, and he says that he's going to be buying a new toaster right now. And his dad says that he wants to get a toaster for Lisa, the masseuse, as well. And Larry's like, she doesn't need a gift. She doesn't need one.
Yeah, he's trying to drop so many hints to his dad that I paid for a sex worker to jerk you off. She doesn't love you, but he doesn't want to break his heart either.
Yeah, I know. It's so innocent, so sweet.
Yeah.
At the shop, Larry and Loretta are looking at toasters and complimenting, they're looking at different kinds of toasters. They begin talking about what kind of people that they would like to date. Because, I don't know, do you know what happens after Cheryl and Larry break up? Do you know that part yet, Steve, or you haven't?
No, so...
Okay, I won't say anything. Okay.
No. So I just know that, next episode is when the split happens, but after that, not really.
Okay, all good. Well, I read it by accident, but I won't tell you what happens.
Okay.
But so they begin, fans of Curb who've watched this episode and subsequent ones, you'll know what I'm talking about. Yeah, and they begin talking about what kind of people they'd like to date. They spot a man walking past, and Larry says, what about that guy? And then Loretta's like, no, too white. I like him a bit more beige. And then Larry says that he likes black women, like darker women. I think even he says African princess black or something.
Yeah, he uses some very colorful adjectives to really drive the point home. And Loretta's kind of impressed, or she's like, oh, okay, a bit surprised, a bit impressed.
That he likes black women.
Yeah. I'm kind of piecing together what happens now. I'm guessing, but I'll find out next week when we watch and record. But I'm guessing they enjoy each other's company.
Oh, somewhat. Well, anyway, right. Yeah, we won't say, because this is our first time we're watching the episodes. But yeah, I happen to read the plot after what happens to Larry and Cheryl, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Just speculating, but maybe, yeah I'm probably off.
It's all right. We'll see. He spots Jean. And walks over and he says sorry to her and the dog. Jean asks if Larry wants to kiss the dog to make up as Larry leans in. As he's about to kiss the dog, it begins growling at Larry. He explains the Hal situation, what happened previously with the whole cocksucker thing, and he says it's a complete misunderstanding. They come to an agreement, they shake hands, and she walks off. The scene cuts to Larry's dad saying now to Loretta that he wants to get Lisa a cappuccino machine. And Larry says, you don't need a cappuccino machine. Eventually, Larry gives in and tells his dad that he hired a masseuse to give him hand jobs. And he does a masturbation motion. So not the cocksucker ASL motion sign, but getting his pursed hand and moving it up and down. He looks in the direction of Jean, who looks on in disgust and walks off because she thinks that Larry is calling her a cocksucker.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, no matter what he does, he's insulting her indirectly.
Indirectly, yeah, and Jean's absolutely offended. Yeah, it's one of those situations where Larry, he does something more than once in the episode, and then to the victim, quote unquote victim, they think that that's what Larry's all about.
Yeah, Larry's doing something, and someone else sees it and misunderstands it, and just runs with their conclusion.
Larry's a victim of that again. Larry is on the phone to Hal back at home, and he explains the Gene situation on a voicemail and leaves a message and hangs up. Loretta walks in and says Kaisha is sick and she can't be in the play as she may have caught the same bug as Cheryl. Leon's phone, which Larry thinks is his, answers, and they call back about Leon's offer. Larry mistakes the person for a telemarketer because the company name is Woodcrest Financial Services. So, and the telemarketer call was from a financial services office as well. So Larry thinks they're both the same. Larry mistakes the man to be a telemarketer, even though he insists that Leon got the job. He mocks him for being a telemarketer as he hangs up. The scene cuts to the worker. His name is Bill. He's in the office of Woodcrest Financial Services. He laments to his manager, who walks up to him, about Leon telling him to go fuck himself. He's like, I offered him the job. And Leon Black, I wanted to offer him the job, but he just basically told me to go fuck myself. And the manager's like, oh, okay. Interesting. Interesting. Like, you think that maybe because Larry and Leon sound nothing alike, that maybe maybe Bill probably thought that wasn't Leon?
Yeah, or maybe, I don't know, maybe who's the guy that called Larry thinking it was Leon?
Oh, Bill. His name is Bill.
Bill, yeah, sorry. Maybe Bill doesn't know what Leon sounds like. Maybe he didn't interview him. So, when he calls, he doesn't know what sort of voice to expect. Maybe he's just the person making the call.
That's true. Yeah. That's fair. Yeah, so he didn't know if he was African-American or whatnot. So he had no idea.
Yeah, and, people sound different over the phone. Interviews, people can sort of alter their natural way of speaking a bit because it's a formal setting.
And you have to be professional. Like, you can't be... Yeah. You kind of have to change your voice a bit, yeah.
Yeah, people sound a bit more relaxed on the phone or whatever. Don't know. But he doesn't pick up that it's not Leon.
Fair enough. Well, you're right. Maybe he's like in HR or recruitment or something.
Yeah.
And he's just returning the call. Yeah. Sounds likely. But yeah, no, it's just funny because, like, basically the funny thing about it is, like, had Leon have accepted the call and got accepted with the job, Larry could then, tell Leon and Loretta to go or kind of encourage him to move out. But Loretta not making her interview in time because of the toaster, and Larry grabbing Leon's phone instead of his without checking. Basically, Larry did all this to himself.
Yeah, he's shot himself in the foot twice.
Yes, and the Black family are back at home and staying there for at least a little while longer. The scene cuts to Leon. He's eating at a pizza shop as Larry's phone, which he thinks is his, it rings. Hal returns his call, and he thinks that Leon is Larry. And Leon begins talking back at Hal, but Hal thinks that it's Larry impersonating a black man because he is black. Leon talks, goes on another rant, and Hal gets angry, and he can't believe what he is hearing and what he thinks is Larry is saying, and then he hangs up on him.
Yeah, he says he's deeply offended.
Yes.
And he's at first he's a bit surprised, and then he has enough of it and doesn't want to talk to him anymore, and he hangs up on him.
Exactly, yeah. And it's funny because because Leon, he's more like street, whereas Hal is kind of more what would you say, like middle class, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, a bit more.
Like middle to upper class, and he doesn't really like, I don't know, what's the best way to explain? You know what I'm talking about.
He's a bit more like Leon's a bit more loose and shoots off at the hip a bit more and a bit more just like unguarded with his speech. Whereas, Hal's a bit more refined, I guess, or just a bit more, he's got a bit less attitude. He's a bit more just kind of dull, I guess. He's less colourful. Maybe is the best way to put it.
Yeah, in terms of his personality and stuff,
Yeah, different personalities, probably different backgrounds. Obviously that has a big influence on how you speak. But I think to Hal, because he assumes it's Larry putting on a certain type of stereotype of an African-American voice, probably thinks that, and like we said, Leon's very animated in the way he speaks. He's very verbose and very descriptive, and he's just got a lot of like swag and attitude. I think he thinks that Larry's just like putting on a stereotypically street, to for lack of a better term, kind of African-American voice, because that's Leon's natural speaking voice. It's very distinct.
Mm-hmm. So you think, that's why he thinks it's Larry, just doing that because he's black.
Yeah, I think so, because Leon's voice is, it's, it doesn't sound like many other people's voices, so it's very memorable. So it makes sense that he would think that Larry's like turning it right up, like turning the like the African-American speaking stereotype voice right up to 11. And, that's probably why he's offended as well. Not just because he's putting it on, but because he thinks he's putting it on in such a
stereotypical way,
over the top, like ridiculous way.
Which makes it hilarious because Leon's actually like an African-American person and that's how he talks.
Yeah.
But he has like, I guess you'd say like a very stereotypical, like caricatured kind of voice.
Yeah, it's got a cartoon.
Like a cartoony kind of voice, yeah.
yeah, it's and you know, we're not saying that one is better or the other or anything like that. It's just, you know, we're trying to do the scene justice without being insensitive, I think, is what we're trying to do.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to figure out the best way to explain it.
Yeah, no, I think you know, we need to describe the scene as it is, but we don't want to be too stereotypical ourselves.
Yes.
But yeah, I think it does have a certain exaggerated quality, so it makes sense why he would think that it's Larry really turning it up, you know, in terms of putting on the stereotype.
Which makes it hilarious.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Leon calls out to Larry, who is up on the stairs, and Leon's downstairs. Leon says that Larry took his phone, as Leon asks if anyone called him, especially from somewhere called Woodcrest Financial. Larry pretends that he didn't get a call by someone from that name. Larry asks if he got someone called Hal who called. Leon pretends that he didn't get it, as they swap phones. So they throw the phones back to each other. So Leon throws it to Larry as Larry throws Leon's back. That's a pretty clever way to film it.
Yeah.
Leon answers the door as Mike the Exterminator arrives. Leon asks, they have a bit of a conversation at the front door, and Leon asks where Mike met Larry. Mike explains how they did it, as Leon asks what he's up to with Mike. Larry walks down the stairs and greets Mike. Mike says that he looks good, and Larry says he looks good in a suit as well. They make a bit of small talk as they walk out, and Leon has suspicions about them. Do you think that maybe he thinks like they're a couple or something? Like, he seems very suspicious. Yeah.
I think he thinks that there's something more than just platonic friendship going on. I think the implication, I think, is that he thinks that they're secret lovers.
Yeah. Secret. Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah, it's just like a totally different side of Leon I haven't seen before. You know, he just has suspicions about Larry.
Yeah, and you know, just the scene, like, they kind of come across as like teenagers who are trying to hide from their parents, the fact that they're like making out in the bedroom or something.
Right. Yeah.
It's like an awkward. They're like, you know, they're being clunky in their efforts to hide. Not that they've got anything to hide. There's nothing to hide. But from Leon's perception, that's how I think it comes across. Like, you know, teenagers who are horny but trying to keep it on the down low.
Actually, I didn't think of it that way, because if we go back to the scene where Mike, you know, asks Larry if he can join him, you know, it kind of feels like a teenager asking, you know, someone up to the prom or something. It's kind of like, oh, I just, I really like the prom, and you know, I thought, you know, maybe I could come, or, you know, if you wanted to come with me. It's kind of like that. I kind of like it's teenage awkwardness. Yeah. That's actually, I didn't think of it that way. Yes.
No, absolutely. I didn't relate it back to the other scene, but what you just said is really true as well. It just reminds me of, like, you know, the stereotype in teen movies of like the awkward, like the dork or the social outcast asking, like the nerd asking out the cheerleader, and being like really awkward about it and nervous and whatnot. It kind of reminds me of that dynamic.
That's a really good point. I did not have that in my notes whatsoever, but yeah, you made an excellent point. And it's like they are going to a middle school, so it kind of it kind of makes sense. It's like teenagers.
Yep. Yeah.
It's like, I like Star Wars. I thought maybe, you know, if you wanted someone to come with you, you know, it's kind of like that sort of thing. You know? Yeah,
it's lacking in any sort of confidence. It's just like, oh, maybe if you want to, only if it's okay, but you don't have to. It's all good. It's very just lacking in any sort of confidence or just maturity, I guess. But it's
and trying to find a middle ground, like saying, you know, Greece is the middle ground. It's like, I like Greece, and you were going to Greece, and I thought maybe
that's enough.
Come with you.
Yeah,
it's nice.
But I didn't expect Leon to be suspicious of Larry.
I didn't think so. I didn't expect that either. Like, right at the end, he just kind of gives them like the weird eyes as they walk off. It was kind of an unexpected plot development. It's not like throughout the episode Leon has been ongoing in his suspicion of Larry. It's not like, you know, he's misunderstood 3 or 4 times that Larry might have a secret man friend. Or maybe in later episodes, Leon might bring it up. Maybe.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe
it'd probably be a thing like when Cheryl and Larry break up. Maybe he'll say, "Did you break up because you were sleeping with Mike or something?" You know?
Yeah, that's a good point.
We haven't watched any episode after this, but I don't know. It could be something like that. Maybe it's going to lead on to some continuity.
Yeah, Curb rarely leaves a plot development.
We have no idea what's going to happen after this.
So maybe the payoffs, later in the season.
Maybe, yeah. Let's have a look. Let's see. We'll find out. So there's probably a reasoning for it.
Yeah.
Mike and Larry arrive as Larry's dad and Lisa are at the auditorium as they all sit down. So Lisa the masseuse decided to turn up, which is cool. Susie and Jeff say hello. They're next to them as well. Jean arrives and signs about what Larry did to Hal on the phone, as in Leon, what Leon did to the phone. And Susie gets angry at Larry for his racist remarks. Jean says, "Fuck you," like she speaks it, and walks off. And Larry says, "Fuck you too," to Jean. So it's at that point when Larry realizes, you know, he can't repair his relationship with Jean and Hal, so he's just like, "Fuck you too." He just yells "fuck you too" as she walks off. as the production's about to start. Gene sits down and the rat dog in the handbag jumps out of the handbag and runs towards the door. Larry's dad screams that there's a rat as Mike jumps out of his seat and stomps on it as everyone is horrified as they walk out. This is probably one of the best scenes of Curb ever. It's just amazing. And it's like, you stomped on a dog. That's not a rat. That's a dog.
It completely...
I was crying with laughter.
Yeah, completely shocked me in the best way. I had no idea that it would escalate to such an insane situation, but it's fucking amazing.
I know. It's just so incredible. I love how it mirrors Larry squashing the spider as well.
Yeah, actually, I didn't link those two, but you're right.
That's absolutely amazing. Probably one of the best scenes in Curb. Probably that and like the doll, the final episode of the doll, I think from season 2. Oh my God. They're like some of the best scenes like in Curb. Absolutely. This one is like up there in like top 5 scenes.
Yeah, totally. I'd agree. I'd put it in my top 5 or 10. And just
so far.
I just love the it's almost like he's possessed when he's stomping on the dog, you know, like he's gone some other place. Like
yes. Like his soul has left his body.
Yeah, he looks like he's not present.
He's got the crazy eyes.
Yeah, he does. It just sort of, and you know, before this we were discussing like he's so like nice and kind of underwhelming and a bit awkward and clunky, and like he's such a sweet guy, and then he gets possessed by an urge to kill, you know, what he mistakes as a rat, which is actually a dog, and then
the shock when he realizes it's a dog, he's like, oh
he I think he'll live with this guilt for a long time.
I think he will too, yeah, because even when in the next scene Larry and Mike, they're walking to Larry's front door, and even then, like Mike's like really awkward. He's kind of a bit like, oh, what have I done?
Yeah, I think he's a bit of shock later on, and you know, I think it'll haunt him for a long, long time. Maybe he even gives up being an exterminator after this because it's too much.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, he probably just gives up. He's like, I'm done. I'm going to go, you know, do something else.
Yeah, I'm going to go become a monk or something,
or work at the SPCA or something.
Yeah, or maybe he'll become a producer and produce grease.
Yeah, just make sure there's no animals on the set.
Animal free production.
That's right.
It's a rat!
What?
Look out!
Larry and Mike are walking towards Larry's front door. Larry supports him for killing the dog. As he said that it was part of Mike's instinct. Yeah, it was part of his instinct that Mike did it, even though it was a dog. Mike is sad, not because he killed the dog, but that they couldn't see the show. They shake hands awkwardly, and Mike walks off, and that ends their kind of teenage, you know, relationship thing. They just awkwardly shake hands.
I think that would end a lot of people's relationship, whether it was long term or short term. A accidental dog stomping would be pretty hard to come back from, I think.
I think so too. Yeah,
because it comes at such a cost for Larry, like socially. You know, it just like it involves people that he's pretty regularly in contact with in his life. Yeah, it's pretty traumatic and pretty big.
Yeah, but Larry doesn't seem too fazed by it though.
No, I don't mean traumatic for him. I just mean that like it's got beyond the grimness and the awfulness of the dog stomping. It's got a lot of knock-on effects for Larry, as most of these things do. You know, whereas Mike, you know, he can exit the situation and he's got no real like substantial personal connection to any of these people. He can just sever the professional relationship and that's it, sort of thing. Whereas Larry, he has to, you know, these people are all in his orbit.
Yeah, I know. Well, but that ends their not their romance, but kind of their awkwardness.
It's like a platonic tryst.
Yes, platonic. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Yeah, platonic tryst. Yeah. In the final scene, Cheryl is making toast in their new toaster. She's much healthier. She's up and about. She goes upstairs and brings breakfast in bed to a very sick Larry. She says that Larry could have a fever as she feels his head, and Larry, you know, being sick and all, starts feeling Cheryl up again as Cheryl asks what he's doing as this episode ends. And that's the end of the episode. I give the Rat Dog 4 Larrys out of 5. Very enjoyable, mate. What about you?
I give this one 4.5 out of 5. I usually reserve my 5 out of 5 Larrys for what I believe are like the all-timers, you know, the classic top 10 episodes of Curb. Like Meet the Blacks and like the second episode of the season, the name's escaping me for now, I gave them both 4.5 out of 5 as well. They were just, for me, just like there was something slightly missing to be all-timers.
Yes.
One in the same bucket. But yeah, fantastic episode. The dog stomping, although pretty fucking hectic, was
amazingly well.
out of the blue.
Man, I couldn't stop laughing. I was crying with laughter.
Yeah, no, so good.
Yeah, I mean, like, the concept of stomping a dog to death is terrible, but it's just the way it was executed, like the scene.
Yeah, I think as well, it was extra hilarious and shocking because Mike is such a meek, kind of unassuming, unthreatening sort of person. Like he's just such a sweet person. And then all of a sudden he gets possessed and fucking stomps a dog to death. It's just, it's kind of shocking, which makes it more hilarious. And obviously the episode having Leon in it, and Leon is just, every scene he's in is just fucking fantastic. And, his phone call with Hal is great as well. It just, good episode. Larry's being a piece of shit in this episode. Actually, no, I take that back. He's coming across as a piece of shit, but he's not doing piece of shit things. People are just misunderstanding things he's saying. He's actually quite nice in this episode. Like he tries to apologize to Gene. He buys his dad a happy ending massage. Like he's actually being a bit more thoughtful in this episode, but it's just not working out.
No. But yeah, very good episode, and it certainly it definitely like keeps the average for season 6 episodes really high. Like totally. At least 4 per episode, which is like incredible.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, for sure. That was Curbcast. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. You can find us in different ways. Stephen, you can tell everyone all about it.
Yeah, you can email us, curbcastpod@gmail.com. We're on all social media, or most major social medias. You can find those links in the show notes. Curbcastpod is our handle. You can check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/mishmashmedia. And you can support us financially there for $1 US a month. You can help keep the lights on and get early access to Curbcast episodes, and we'll have some bonus content later in the year for you. And non-financially, you can rate us or review us on your podcast app of choice, or just let someone you know who might like the podcast about us.
Yes, that would be absolutely incredible. Any way to get the podcast out to other people would help us immensely. My name's Ivan.
And I'm Stephen.
And we'll catch you next week for Season 6, Episode 7, a very monumental episode in the Curb universe. We can't wait to talk about it. And you take care of yourselves and each other. See you then.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening. This podcast is part of Mishmash Media, an independent podcast network. Follow us on social media at Mishmash Media AU or support us on Patreon. All those links are in the show notes.